On today's show, it is part 2 with myself and Bryce Hendricks talking all things NBA draft, and it's coming up right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1988 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland, coming to you deep in the night on a Tuesday into Wednesday, and this is part 2 of 2 with myself and Bryce Hendricks. So if you missed part 1, it should be available in this same podcast feed right now. So start there to have the full linear flow of the conversation, but part 2 is available right now. We'll dive right back here with Bryce and myself talking about the NBA draft, the Hawks, and everything in between. I did promise you that we would talk about one of your guys, Rasheer Fleming. So let's go ahead and do that now before I forget, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
He's very popular in Hawk circles too. I get questions about him all the time. If you don't know who he is the St. Joseph's forward. I think he's 21-ish years old. Monster measurements, all that stuff. So I will clear the decks. I asked you, I was like, hey, is there anybody you want to talk about? And you said immediately Rasheer Fleming. So Rasheer Fleming, 13? Is that too high? Like it's 22? Like what do you make of him? And also what do you like and maybe not like about Rasheer Fleming?
I mean, 13 for me is great. Like I'd
Okay.
happily take him at 13. Now, whether that would be good strategy based on consensus, I don't know. But for me,
honestly, that's overblown. I will probably reference that at some point. But it can be overblown. If the Hawks think he's the best player, you can't just be like, "Hey, we love this guy, but we're going to wait 9 picks." Like he might go 16, and then you're out of luck. So take the guy you want to take at 13.
Yeah, absolutely. And my quick sell for Rasheer Fleming is this is a guy that helps you win playoff games. He has one of my favorite individual skills in the class, which is his paint maneuverability on defense. His ability to stifle a drive guarding pick and roll, recover to his man. Oh, they threw a skip and actually that guy's attacking a closeout. Stop the closeout, recover back to his man and block the shot. Like he did that like all the time. And that's just my one of my personal individual greatest loves in basketball. Now, there's some question as to, is he a 4? Is he a 5? Is he a 3? I don't think he's a 3. To jump that off the way, he's a pretty limited offensive player. I think he can really make shots. I really like the mechanics, even though they're kind of funky. He just has a really high release, and he's confident. Like for me, I'm all in on a guy who's he will take them. Like he might have some Jay Crowder 29% from 3 on high volume seasons, but you can never just fully leave him open because there might be a game where he hits 5. Like I think he could be that type of shooter, but I also think there's a chance that he's just like a really consistently great shooter. Like I think people underrate sometimes, especially, when these guys play in mid to low major leagues or whatever, like the importance of improvement track record and what that says about someone and their ability to add basketball skills, both hard and soft. And he got better in just about every statistical category over his 3 years in a way that his game's not similar, but in a way that was similar to like Jalen Williams. And that was one of my big sells. I was really high on Jalen Williams. And one of my big sells was this is a guy who just got better all the time. Like it just shows an innate ability. They were both young for their class too. Like Rasheer Fleming I think he's 21, but he's he's young for his class. And he's just big. He's athletic. He plays really hard defensively, and he has that really elite paint maneuverability. There's some big questions. The closeouts are really, really bad. Like he really cannot close ground going towards the perimeter. That's why I don't think he's a 3. He's not a great ball handler. He can take one dribble and go dunk, which is great. But I think he's a lot more of a kind of cutter, stand in the corner, 3-point shooter, and then every once in a while some gadget plays here and there. And that he is a bit scheme specific. It's why I can only get so high on him, right? Like I don't think he can exist in a scheme where he has to make like 0.5-second decisions all the time. Like he's not a future warrior, and that's fine. What he would be great at is being exactly what the Hawks need, which is, hey, we're going to have Jalen Johnson push the ball in transition. We're going to have Trae Young running high pick and roll. We need you to stand in the corner and know when to spot up, when to lift, and when to cut. And if you do those 3 things, we're going to have someone who's going to put the ball right where you need it all the time. And I think he could potentially be great at that, while also really providing a type of defense that gets underrated because he's not just gonna lock up the other team's best guy. Though I do think there's some low hanging fruit to improve his maneuverability on the perimeter. But he's just going to provide that secondary rim protection. He's going to help out someone like Onyeka Okongwu, and he's going to allow you to play, more complex defensive schemes while also making the job easier for your best players on offense. Those guys play playoff minutes, especially when you consider that he's not weak, he's not contact averse, and he is, every once in a while he'll just out tough dudes for stuff. Like he will just get some rebounds where he shoves someone out of the way and will just go up and get it with one hand, or he'll get he'll make a contested catch and take a pound dribble and finish through someone's chest. Like those things are really matter in terms of being role players in the NBA, and you've seen that consistently in the playoffs. There's not a ton of skinny contact diverse guys playing in the conference finals or the finals. It's a lot of guys who are tough and willing to use their strength and weight while also being able to make shots and contribute defensively.
Yeah, I mean, if you buy the shooting improvement, and it was a big one in year 3, and that's, that could be good and bad, like you said. Like there are some times where it's like, oh, is this just because this is last year in college? Is this real? It's a one thing. But if you buy it, number one, and it was really good. I think he had 64% true shooting this year. He made his threes. He took them, like you said. It's a really intriguing package. I'm with you. Not a guy that I love like the feel of offensively. He's not a guy that I'm like want to make a ton of decisions, like ball handling, all those things, but like low usage potentially, but also can make shots, physical, switchable defensively, and scheme versatile. And you just can't have too many of these like big physical forwards. Like I say that all the time, but you just having more of those guys is not a bad thing. Like I just think you want to have those players in general. And also I mentioned the age, and so did you, but he's I looked it up while you were talking. He's 5 months older than Derek Queen. And Derek Queen was a one and done, and Fleming played 3 years. So to illustrate your point, Queen's an older freshman, but Fleming's a young junior. So
I believe I could be wrong, but I believe he will be just about the same age Brandon Miller was when Brandon Miller was drafted. So,
that's about the same thing. So I mean, he's not super young. That does matter, but he isn't like a old junior. Like there are guys, like for instance, Nick Clifford is like 2.5 years older than Rasheer Fleming. Like different archetypes, but you know what I mean? Like in this class, there are some older guys, but he's more in the middle than on the older side. Like he's the same age as Danny Wolf. Another thing, like Danny Wolf is, another player we can talk about if you want to. This show is sponsored by Betterhelp. Let's talk about something that does not get talked about enough, and that is men's mental health. There's this pressure to keep it together, always to perform and to provide, and never to show weakness. But the truth is, real strength comes from opening up and taking care of your mental well-being and yourself. Every year, 6 million men in the U.S. experience depression, and many of those go undiagnosed. Talking to someone in your life, though, a friend, a loved one, or even a therapist can make a huge difference for you. And therapy is not just for crisis moments. It's great for learning how to set boundaries and build healthy coping tools and be the best version of yourself. With over 35,000 licensed professionals, BetterHelp also makes it easy to find a licensed therapist who understands you. You can also connect from anywhere, switch therapists at any time, and fit sessions into your schedule with just one click. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. That's BetterHelp, betterhelp.com/lockedonnba. I want to go back to one guy we did talk about before that I meant to ask you a follow-up on, and I'm a bad host, so I didn't, earlier in this discussion, and that's Carter Bryant, because Carter Bryant is another guy who you already laid it out perfectly, like is rising seemingly. It makes sense. He's an athletic potential two-way forward. And look, those players are very valuable if you can get them. I didn't sense in your tone, maybe I'm wrong, that you love Carter Bryant, but maybe I'm wrong about this. What do you think of him? Because I think he's on my list of 13 for sure. He might be gone by then, but certainly would be, in my mind, an appropriate choice. It'd be fine with me if you took him at 13. I wouldn't do a dance party, but what do you think of Carter Bryant?
Carter Bryant is someone I've had a really, really hard time with in this draft, and I'm not afraid to admit that. I didn't see him coming. Like when I watched his UIBL stuff, I was like, oh yeah, he'll be good in 3 years, and that's kind of what it felt like watching his freshman year at Arizona. There was never a time where like there were some media outlets that would hype him here and there, and I'd be like, okay, well, he has a 12% usage rate. Like those guys,
he was fine, but he just didn't do a lot at Arizona.
I can't remember exactly the number, but he he took like very few unassisted rim attempts on the whole season. And he also, if you go back and watch, took very few unassisted rim attempts in EYBL. I like Bryant quite a bit because I think he is like a really, really good defensive player, like a really good defensive player. And I think he is. I did this on our next pod that'll come out, and it'll probably have come out by the time you guys
Maybe,
listen to this. It seems like I don't know, but it's on Carter Bryant and a couple other. You mentioned Nick Clifford, it's on him and as well. And I tried to use like I think we use comparisons a lot offensively, but we don't. I actually think they're more valuable defensively because there are different types of defense, but we don't have like words to describe them all the time. He is like the OG Anunoby type of defender. Where he is just big, he's strong, he's long. He's not quite as like smothering at the point of attack, but OG, people forget when he came out of Indiana, had pretty tight hips and was kind of stiff, and he's really developed his lower body flexibility, and that's part of what has made him, arguably the best one-on-one defensive player in the NBA. And I think Carter Bryant has that in him to be that. I wish he got up and was a little bit more aggressive on the ball, but it was pretty clear this year in Arizona that he was out there to do his job, and that's all he was out there to do. So he wasn't trying to get up in pressure, but what he did do is whatever the team asked him to do. They needed him to step out and hedge. Yes, sir, I'm going to step out and hedge. And they needed him to fly around on the back line. He did that, even though I don't think that's what his best skill is. I think he's actually a pretty poor low man right now, other than the fact that he can just get up really high off the ground and he has really long arms. But I think what he will be best at in the NBA is if you need someone to guard a Luka or you need someone to guard a LeBron, there is a 20% chance that Carter Bryant is one of the top guys in the league to potentially do that. And you take that chance fairly high, even with the caveat that being a role player in the NBA is really hard. And whether you realize it or not, most role players in the NBA are really good scorers, and Carter Bryant is not a good scorer.
They had to be at some point, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, and he just has never had to be. Like, he shot 42% at the rim in EYBL. Like, people don't understand like just how mind-numbingly bad that is for like a one and done prospect. Like he cannot take a second dribble comfortably. Every time he dribbles, it's to either give the ball to someone else or it's to take a pull-up jumper, which he is not particularly good at. The jumper looks really good, and I think he will be a good shooter in time. I don't think it's as good as some of the numbers might indicate this year. He took very few. He turned down a lot of pretty open ones to move the ball. I think he's going to take a real mentality shift, and I really don't like the weight transfer as he kind of sits back on his hips. But I don't want to get too into the shot doctor nerd stuff. But offensively, he is very, very limited. Like more limited than most NBA centers right now, probably. And so you have to have a situation around him where he can be the fifth guy on offense. And even that is harder than people realize. Like he can't be the fifth guy who can also catch and attack a closeout. Like that, like the difference between him and Rasheer Fleming for me is I think Rasheer Fleming can catch and attack a closeout off a couple dribbles and go score or make a solid read as a passer. I don't think Carter Bryant can do that right now. He is very limited to being someone who can make spot up shots, who can set good screens. But there's the truth. He's not like going to be a elite role threat because he's not quite like the Aaron Gordon high flyer, and he's not quite big enough of those top guys. He's going to be a good cutter. I think he's really a really good cutter in scramble situations. Like he's really smart. I think he has okay proprioception. It's just there's all these like intangible skills that I really like, and the big hole is can he put the ball in the basket enough to survive on an NBA court? Because the truth is there's not a ton of room for Andre Robersons in the league right now. Or Tony Allen's. Like as good as you are defensively, the league is an arms race right now. And it's about getting guys who can be as good as possible defensively while still meeting that offensive threshold. And the real question is, can Carter Bryant do that? I think it's worth a swing, but it has to be with the understanding that there is a real shot that he just really struggles to get on the floor and play comfortable minutes.
We want to keep going on Bryant, but I looked at the numbers while you were talking, and man, I am struck again. And I've seen the numbers before, and I'm looking at them again now. Like just the situation, you watch the film and you get it. You get why. You alluded to it. Like he was asked to play a super small role in Arizona. It was a weird team overall. I watched a lot of college basketball. Like it was like their fans were like, why are they not using him more? Like it was a question they had all year long. But he played 19 minutes a game. the man, he took less than 2-point shots per game in college this year. He took 4.8 field goal attempts per game. This is a potential lottery pick. You don't ever see that. Even guys that were like bench players, like, you know, one and done freshmen who were 6th men, 7th men on that does happen on college teams. They don't take 4 shots a game at the college level, like, and go in the lottery. Like almost no one does that, especially as a non-center, like a common Malawak type of center, like a defensive, ace kind of guy. Like, I get it with Bryant. I do get it, but man, the context in which you're evaluating him is just so weird. He averaged also, I think he had a dead even assist turnover ratio, but it was like 1 per game in both areas. Like, he just didn't have the ball. He just didn't do anything on offense. It was weird.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that stands out statistically is he had like a 4.8 block rate and a 2.7 steal rate or something like that. Like, those are the numbers that are good.
No, defensively, I have very little concern. I'm going to be. I mean, there are degrees in how good you are, and you did a good job laying that out. Like, not everybody's going to be OG Anunoby. He'll be compared to that. I totally get why. There are degrees of how good he might be defensively, but obviously you were drafting him because of that side of the ball. And offensively, like, he did shoot a decent percentage from 3. Like, I get it, the thought process. And like I already said, I would be fine with him at 13. But you said it great. Like, you have to be understanding of what he is and what he isn't. And yeah, it's kind of a swing because of the talent level and the athleticism that he has. And that, again, the 6'8" two-way forward thing is not a trope. It's a trope for a reason. Like, it's because everybody wants that guy. But he might be getting a little bit overdrafted based on what he's proven so far. But hey, it's not really about what you've proven so far. It's a combination of tools and what you can be, I suppose.
Yeah, and it'll be really interesting. I think not to transition too much to another guy.
No, go ahead.
I do think something that's interesting is it seems like teams in this range right now are really trying to figure out, okay, which 6'5" to 6'9" athletic forward do we like the most? Because another guy from my alma mater, Cedric Coward, is being mocked at 9 to the Toronto Raptors. And
I was going to ask you about him no matter what because of the Washington State connection, and also because there are Hawks fans that would crawl over hot coals to draft Cedric Coward, and I don't mean this in a negative way. I'm skeptical they've watched him a lot, to be honest with you. I think it's probably the most of the highlight stuff of the buzz, because if you just look at like the package of what Cedric Coward is potentially could be, I totally get it. It's very, very exciting. But hey, I mean, you are a Washington State guy. I mean, what do you think? Because he's interesting in itself. Also, he almost went to Duke. That was like a thing that was still possible like 2 weeks ago.
One, and what's so funny is I really do feel like the commitment to Duke is
it helped him.
Solid big reason why he's being talked about like this. They're like, oh, what did John Shire see? I have never been so perplexed by the like insane rise of a player, and that's not because I don't like Coward. I mean, I would have been. This is exactly the type of guy I would have been banging the drum like, man, sneaky guy at 22. Like,
but that's not going to happen anymore.
But it's not. It's just not there. Well, and
I will say one thing, and I'll let you go. It's still weird. Like, if you look at the kind of some of the consensus mocks, like ESPN is like the most mainstream of mainstream boards. They still have him like in the mid to low 20s. So it's not everybody. And I don't know if Gavoni's just not in or whatever, or Jeremy Wu, whoever it's going to be. But, like, it's not everybody. There is actually a big split on Coward still, but it's just like at one point he was no one had him going in the lottery, and now it's like half the people do, half people don't. It's just an odd rise.
Yeah,
he's getting the Jalen Williams comps, by the way. You mentioned Jalen Williams. He's the one that's getting the Jalen Williams comps.
Yeah.
Today's show is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, you know every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you actually had an urgent need, perhaps for a plumber or a service provider. If they didn't answer the phone the first time, did you wait? You probably didn't. You probably moved on to something else, and that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system. It's built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or your computer. At OpenPhone, it lets you manage your business calls and text from a single app, and the shared inbox feature is a game changer for you. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a beat at all. And OpenPhone's AI agent can also handle your calls after hours, answer common questions, and capture any leads so that you never actually miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OPENPHONE, openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over for you at no extra charge. Open phone, no missed calls, no missed customers.
So Cedric Coward started at Willamette University, which is a school like I've talked to their coaches. When I was a player, I talked to their coaches. This is a small D3 school. For those that don't know, D3 is free like you don't get a scholarship to play D3 basketball. It is you pay to play basketball. And now he's going to make $1 million to play basketball next year. So for nothing else, kudos for that. He played 2 years at Eastern Washington. I saw him live a couple times at Eastern Washington. At his first year, he was kind of like a havoc creating bench player, played about half the team's minutes. He made shots from deep and was really efficient inside, but was not like a crazy, high level, player for them. He was kind of a bit player on a good Eastern Washington team, but a bit player on an Eastern Washington team does not usually project to be an NBA player. The year after, he takes a pretty big step in usage, is the best player on a good Eastern Washington team, and then only played 6 games this year. Only one of those games against, real, solid competition. And, he was fine, good even. I think he is so theoretical right now. He is not actually a good defensive player right now, as much as I would like him to be. He's long, and he's tough, and he's smart, and he's a really good rebounder, like a really, really good out-of-area rebounder. But he is not – his footwork is pretty inconsistent and pretty rough at times. His strength is not like he's not as strong in his upper body as he looks. There are multiple times where he's contesting shots, almost getting a hand on it like a dig or something, and he just can't get it all the way out because he's just not strong enough. And then offensively, a lot of his offense comes from Barclays and post-ups and such, and he's a good spot-up shooter. He's a pretty good decision maker. He has operated a really complex offense, which the truth is, I think that's what Shire saw in him. WSU this last year and Eastern the 2 years before ran an offense that was pretty similar to Duke's this year, in that it was movement-based. There was a lot of screening, and the wings were asked to be playmakers, but also pick and pop screeners and executing ghost actions and all this stuff. I think he saw that Coward could do that, was a good shooter, and kind of meet the baseline requirements of athleticism. And I think he kind of thought he would be like the better shooting Zion James of this next Duke team with Cameron Boozer, which is great. But Zion James is going to go in the 50s this year. And again, I like Coward, and I would draft him probably in the mid-20s or so, with the idea that, hey, the development path is so weird. He's pretty young for his class. He is 21 right now. His rookie season will be his age 22 season. He's 7 or 8 months older than Fleming, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
But he is not yet a good basketball player in the way that will help even as a rookie him meet expectations. And some of it, I think some of it is there's some weird shine. Jalen Wells had a really good rookie season, and obviously I love Jalen Wells, but there is sometimes NBA teams get the jersey.
I also get Hive, baby.
I don't know. It's so weird because I've obviously want to root for a WSU guy.
No,
but there's just nothing I personally really latch onto with Coward other than the really interesting development trajectory and almost treating him like a pre-draft guy. Hey, we're drafting this guy because he was going to blow up at Duke and have a neat Clifford-esque season at Duke.
Right.
I understand that, but you don't draft that guy in the lottery, in my opinion.
I think it's 3 things as to why. I'm not saying this is right. I think there's 3 reasons why he's blown up. One of them is what you already said about the developmental track, and it's just the weirdness. He had good numbers at Washington State, tiny sample size. I get, and also just the positional value potentially. There's that aspect. Number 2 is that he measured with a 7'2" wingspan, which of course is a big flashy number, and people are really excited about that. I get why. Massively long arms. So that's just what he hits a same standing reach as Cooper Flagg. It's crazy long arms. And then the third thing, by all accounts, from what I've heard, I think people have even written this by now. He's apparently had 2 or 3 ridiculous workouts in front of people, in front of not just teams, media people even. And that's good. I mean, if you have a good day at a right time, you can skyrocket. So if you get there are guys always, and this happens every year. There are guys where you get them in a workout, if they blow you away, you can't unsee that. And there's always this big debate. We could probably not have it today, but like how much you care about individual workouts, how much you should care about individual workouts. Do they fool you more than they help you? People in the league are very spoiled on that in general, but it is hard for teams to forget something like that. If they see it in person and they're blown away, that sticks in people's heads. So it might be real. Like I think Coward does have real upside. I also think that your points are 100% reasonable about how just, I don't use weird in a negative way, but just weird this whole thing is. It's very odd. The path, the skill set, how little he's played at the highest level, the transfer to Duke I think is actually does matter to your point. So I don't know. I'm fascinated by him. He's the kind of guy, I mean, speaking of 13, because whatever, would I fall on the floor and be upset about it? No. I also am not like, you have to take this guy at 13. I'm not doing that either. So
Here's my question for you, Brad. Would you rather have him or Nick Clifford?
Well, I mean, they're just so different. Like Nick Clifford is like, they're just very different, even players. Nick Clifford's way better at basketball right now. Like not even close. He's also 23 years old, and I get it. Like I love Nick Clifford, to be honest with you, but I also like no. I shouldn't say no. I don't expect the highest upside outcomes for Nick Clifford. But if you wanted to, like, if you were a team that was really trying to get some value out of a rookie contract, I think Nick Clifford would be a good investment in general. I think he's a lot safer than Cedric Coward.
Mm-hmm.
Coward has higher upside, so I get it.
I think I would have those two pretty similar in that I would not be jumping up and down at 13. I'd be pretty happy at 22 with either.
Yeah, 22. Honestly, like I know you said 20s. Like at 22, I think you. Yeah, I'm not saying you have to take him, but I would like that outcome a lot. I also think that maybe this whole thing is a mirage, and we'll get to the draft. And like, there's always a guy like this where it's like, oh, this guy's really gonna fall. Like we're just watching this guy fall now, and maybe it's him this year. I'm not rooting for that. I hope he does well. By all accounts, like no, I'm not rooting against anybody, but it's just an interesting archetype overall. And of course, he was on my list to ask you because of the Washington State thing, but also he's just really interesting as a player.
I also do think there's something to be said for, and this is absolutely outside of my scouting purview. I don't count any of this in my evaluation, so don't knock me as a scout for this. But there's something to be said for the excitement of a story, right? And like, I do think NBA teams sometimes, especially GMs, I've spent a lot of time in the last few years around basketball people. Basketball people are storytellers at their heart. And they love the story of a kid who got recruited by no one, paid back to play college basketball for a year, was absolutely dominant, and then gets to be an NBA guy. And there's something to be said for both the storytelling and the romanticism of that, and also the hard truth of, hey, that means this guy in some way or another really took off for the last couple of years, because being in recruiting and knowing where he's from and Fresno is, I'm telling you, I'm sorry, it's not an under recruited area by any means. Fresno, California, plenty of college recruits have their eyes on there. That means there was some type of latent development. It's not just that he didn't get seen. So there's something to believe in with, hey, this guy is just maybe such a hard worker. I've heard nothing but great things about Coward as a human and just kind of what he would bring to a team from that sense. And the truth is, like we mentioned earlier, this draft is lacking guys like Coward. Usually there'd be 5 to 10 Cowards in a draft where it's like, hey, like we, our small subsect of draft Twitter that doesn't really exist anymore, but I still use this shorthand. Oh, we really love this guy, and we really love this guy. There's like some people are like banging the drum on Ryan Kalkbrenner, and it's like, okay, like if that's the level we're at with this guy, it's like, I'm in. And I'm not even out on Kalkbrenner, but it's just there's just not the excitement for guys like that in this draft, because so many of those types of guys are going back to college. And so I think that's a big part of it with Cowards. It's like, oh my gosh, like here's the weird statistical case. Oh man, look at my BART query, and man, he's so long and so fun, and he played at Willamette and all this stuff. And so it's just kind of he's just, it's been really interesting to watch, and it's been really like I wake up every day and see a new Cedric Coward tweet, and I'm like, I feel like I just watched a different basketball player this year. Like there was never a moment where I was watching Coward this year and I was like, yeah, he's going to be a first round pick this year. And I get it. I don't say that again. I would probably draft him in the first round, but I never watched him and thought he will be a first round pick.
I want to ask you about one more guy in particular, and then I'm going to get you to my always segment where I ask the person on the podcast for their guys. Now you've already mentioned a few of them, so we'll add some more. But this is not in that segment. One more guy, because I haven't talked about him really at all. I realized that recently, and that's Noah Penda. Noah Penda, if people don't know who he is, I think he's 26-8-ish, wing forward type. Consensus boards like in the 20s. Noah Penda, I mean, and look, this is this very well. International players, especially ones that are not protected lottery picks, just don't get talked about as much as everybody else in college because it's harder to watch those guys. I watched Noah Penda later than everybody else because I was watching college guys first. I like Noah Penda. I'm intrigued by Noah Penda. I'm not saying at 13. This is probably more of a 22 thing. But do you? And again, I know you just talked about him on your podcast, so it's not a curveball. Do you like Noah Penda? What do you think of that? Because I feel like I should talk about him at some point, so we're going to do it now.
I really want to love Noah Penda. Like very few basketball players do I want to be in on the way I wanted to be in on Noah Penda. I'm just not sold the mentality is right for the NBA. I think he has the European mentality, man. He wants to make the right play all the time. It got talked about as factory brain with.
Love that.
Was that Abdoulaye Ndoye that had the factory brain, or no? It was Teo Maledon. The factory brain calls and stuff. And I like Penda, and that I think he's a fine bet, like in the later lottery, or not later lottery, excuse me, the later first round. I think the big thing that needs to change for him is he has to change his mindset from I will shoot sometimes to I am a shooter, because there's just not enough else there offensively. And I don't think he's quite a good enough defender to be like a Carter Bryant type defense only prospect. He's kind of good at a lot of things and great at nothing, which is always kind of one of my prospect red flags. I think his best skill is his standstill processing on both ends. When he is not moving and he is standing still, he sees things great, and he makes he made plays in a league and on a team that didn't make a ton of plays. And what I mean by that is if you look at Ben Saroff and Noah Songe's numbers and compare them to the rest of Ulm, they're not really that outlier. You compare that to the rest of the league, they're not really that outlier. Noah Penda, and you compare his defensive playmaking to the rest of the league and to the rest of his team, which I'm blanking on the name of. He used to play for Yavici.
Isn't it Lamont?
Yeah, it is Lamont. That's right.
Yeah.
He used to play for Lavici, or Yavici, but not anymore. Anyways, like his numbers are outlier. Like he makes plays defensively in a way very few other people in his league does, and he played in a better league. Like the Jeep Elite League is a better league. He's a little older than like Noah Songe, but I like the strength. I think he's really solid defensively, but he's not like quite a lockdown guy, and the ground coverage isn't good enough for him to be like a Tari Eason type, like roamer, just like run around and make plays. Like he's not like a, Jalen Johnson, when he's at his best defensively, is kind of roaming around and just creating a lot of havoc. He's a monster at the nail. He can be a low man. Noah Penda can't really do all that. He's just kind of he's in the right spots all the time, and he has really good timing. And that stuff is great, but when you're not when you're a marginal athlete, it's a real question to me. I don't think the handle's particularly good. I don't think he's a great finisher. He gets fouled a lot, which is good. I think there's a solid chance he's an NBA player, but the truth is, like, a lot of these guys that are marginal end up just staying in Europe. Like if he was American, I think there'd be a slightly higher chance that he sticks around in the NBA as like an 8th or 9th man. I like the swing in kind of the mid to late 20s because if he hits, he is like, there's a path to being like a starting 4 where he's like a really good shooter who can make low man rotations, who can also contribute. Like he's not just a Rasheer Fleming where he's very limited offensively. Like he can do more of like the 0.5 second decision making, the put the ball on the deck every once in a while. He's a good cutter, but if he was just like that little bit more athletic or that little bit more comfortable with the ball in his hands, I'd feel a lot better about it. But he's another guy where I don't know that he can actually score well enough to be a consistent minute getter in the NBA.
Yeah, he does a lot of things that I just am a sucker for, like with the decision making and the defense, and like he just, like you said, he's in the right spot. Every time I watch him, I'm like, oh, he's just doing the stuff that I want to see guys do. But you're right, he doesn't score enough, doesn't shoot enough, and I don't know if he's a good shooter. Like I don't think he's a zero shooter, but I don't know how good of a shooter he is. On top of the mentality stuff of like you got to take more. So I just wanted to ask about him because like he's kind of up my alley. As
the one thing I do want to add too is like he did improve a lot as a shooter, and like that's something Stone, my podcast co-host,
former guest of this podcast,
absolutely he loves Penda, and we actually ruined his day because we talked him down a little bit on him, but he's been in on Penda for like 3 years. He texted us like 3 years ago, like, hey, you got to watch this random dude playing the Spanish B League, and we're like, absolutely not. But
come on.
Anyways, you know, he's really improved as a shooter, and there is a world to where if he does buy into that mentality of it's the truth is it's kind of a more American mentality. Something I was talking about with an NBA scout is he was saying like, yeah, like there's a lot of like the French guys that make it in the NBA lots of times right now are kind of the stars, you know, or they're guys that have that were kind of on star pathways and then in some way or another fell off. Like even you wouldn't necessarily say Evan Fournier was on a star pathway, but you know he's at least a star in the sense that he had the ball in his hands and made plays. Nicolas Batum was kind of a star, but a lot of like the French role players are so like right play oriented, and it's a struggle for them to get to the NBA because the NBA is about making the right play. But more often than people realize, the right play in the NBA is to score because the shot clock is 6 seconds lower, and the timing is yeah. I
was gonna say the Hawks had to kind of coach Rasheed, and they still will be doing this. Like they had to, and they did it, and I think it's starting to work. And you saw that more and more during the season. But Rasheed has kind of that too, where he is totally cool, like just playing a role, and like they're like Zach, you have to shoot, like you have to, but again. It took them 6 months for whatever it was, but he's doing it more. But they had to, and by the way, they were all open about it too. They weren't even. This is not off the record stuff. They were talking about this stuff on the record in the microphones. Like we have to beg Zach to shoot, and that's like not what you normally see for a number 1 overall pick in the draft. And granted, it was a weird draft. We all understand that. But a guy who was going to be a top 7 pick no matter what, probably, and they had to like beg him to shoot the ball. And it's because he was the way he was wired. And I'm not saying it's always about him being French or whatever, but like he came up playing a role. He came up being.
I do think there's something to be said for it. It's part of like the French development system is they kind of determine and if you watch a lot of their U18 teams, you'll kind of see it like they kind of have 1 or 2 guys, and then they want everyone else to do their job. When they have a Wemby, Wemby's going to get the ball, and the rest of you guys are going to figure out how to get him the ball. You know, last year it was Traore and
win basketball games. I get it. I mean,
no, absolutely. And listen, it's worked. And a big thing a big reason that a lot of French guys are going in the draft anymore. The truth is that it's important for NBA GMs to be on the good side of the French national team and French basketball as a whole. Like it's important. And I could see Penda providing real plus value. It's easy to squint and see late career Nicolas Batum with him, right? And
I like him.
That's the sell, and I understand that, and I'm rooting for that because that's like my favorite player archetype. I just wish he was just a little bit better. I guess is how I end up doing it.
I think that's totally reasonable. He does lots of. I'm a sucker for these like low volume, do everything right role players. That's kind of a weakness. That's honestly the player I was as a bad player. I was never good at basketball anyway, but I did play, and that was my style of player. I couldn't score and all those things. Anyway, before I let you go, we've already gone longer than I said I was going to keep you. My apologies on that. Anybody that you love that we haven't talked about? It could be a 2nd round pick. Could be any Bryce's guys. I want to make sure you have the opportunity to share anybody that you just like are really in on. And if there's nobody else, that's totally fine too. But if there's anybody that you want to be like, hey, this is Rasheer Fleming is one of them. I know that, but we talked about him already. So anybody else that you just love, he could be a guy in the 40s. It doesn't bother me.
You know, I maybe this is a bit of a cop out, but
that's fine.
I just staying on the French train. Like I just can't not love Maxime Raynaud. Like I couldn't do it.
I'm so glad you brought this up because Hawks fans, I don't know when this happened, but in the last like 2 weeks, there's like a contingent of Hawks fans that would like climb over hot coals for Maxime Raynaud. I don't know when that happened. I get it. He's a very talented player, but if people don't know who he is, the big man out of Stanford, he is French, like you said. But back to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think he's just a really good offensive big. And defensively, I have a lot of questions.
Me too.
The truth is, I try to like The positive with him defensively is that he did a whole lot of things over the course of the last 5 years of his basketball career. There were 2 straight years at Stanford where they switched every screen, and he had to just figure it out. He was playing with Harrison Ingram as the point guard, and they're like, we're going to put 7-2 Maxime Raynaud out on your team's point guard on the perimeter, and we're going to say, all right, just don't let him get something comfortable. And he kind of had to figure it out. Like, there's these flashes of like cool movement for a dude that big. I was really disappointed by the standing reach. If he was as physically big as Ryan Kalkbrenner, I'd be all the way in.
Oh, if he was, that he would be. I mean, just what do you actually? I'm looking at this up now. Yeah, he has a 7'1" wingspan at 7 feet tall. So like, it's not bad, but I think it was like 9'2" standing reach, which is like totally fine. That's like center size
compared to like crazy. A 9'5" or 9'4.5" maybe for Kalkbrenner. And I just, but what I like about Raynaud is I think he's an actual stretch big, and what I mean by that is. Like, and I'll use Kalkbrenner as a contrast. I like Kalkbrenner, but I think Kalkbrenner is a fake stretch big, and that he can every once in a while step out and take one, and that's fine, and he might make it, but it is a waste of his time as someone who is as good as he is in the paint to be standing on the perimeter, because even if every once in a while he makes a shot, he's never going to have the actual gravity to draw a closeout because it's not going to be great enough offense, and even if he did draw closeouts, he couldn't attack that closeout. Maxime Raynaud was in like the 90th percentile in spot up situations this year. And that includes closeout attacks. Like, he legitimately shot fakes and puts the ball on the deck and gets to the rim and finishes. Now, he doesn't finish strong, which is a big concern for me. He's really touch based right now. But I think there's something to be said for, if he's like a slightly better version of Mike Muscala, like, I'm still pretty happy with that guy.
That is so funny because I won't say who it is. I have a person I talk basketball with a lot. I can show you my phone. I won't. Today, use that exact comparison to me. Exactly. Mike Muscala was the comparison they used. Now, and it wasn't in a bad way, but it was kind of like in a, are we sure he could be a primary center defensively kind of way? Because Muscala, for while he was in the league for a long time, I love Mike, covered Mike. You didn't want to be. He was not going to be your defensive anchor necessarily at the 5. He needed to be next to another guy who could kind of help him in that way. Raynaud's breakout this year is crazy, by the way. Like, you talk about his shooting, him being a real stretch big. He took almost 10 threes per 100 possessions this year.
Yep, he was
like
getting them up.
Before that, it was like 3 or 4 per 100, and for 3 years, and now it's like it literally was 9.8. That is a super duper high 3-point attempt rate for a big. Like, and honestly. I might think, speaking of the Muscala comparison, can he play the 4? Because I think he might actually end up playing more at the 4 than the 5 at the NBA level. Because
that might be the question, right? Because I think he can pass well enough to be a 4. I think the tough thing is there's marginal returns when stretch 5s become stretch 4s.
That's the thing,
right? 100%. That's always the question. So I think my prediction for him is that he's like a really good backup center in the realm of like a Nas
third big kind of guy. Yep.
Where he plays some 5, especially in the regular season. But if you need to get minutes from him at the 4, he can do it, but it's not as positive. What I like about him too is that I think he's a good decision maker. And I will say like to give him some benefit of the doubt defensively, he was in a spot where he, like this last year, he had to cover for like 3 freshmen on the floor all the time. Like, he was this, and I think part of the sell for Kyle Smith was, hey, this is my first year at Stanford, and I want to build a team around you, Maxime, and I want you to get all the shots, and I want you to go to the NBA.
And it worked.
And if you go to the NBA, I can use that as a recruiting pitch for future reference, but it's also a lot of responsibility on you. And you could see him communicating and trying and getting frustrated, and the spacing was not good. So like, he was not in a great situation. I think he's the type of guy who could get maximized by NBA coaching. And defensively, if he can the flashes of movement are enough for me to think that maybe he could be solid at like getting up to touch if he's playing with another rim protector behind him. He's not like a lockdown guy or anything. He's not like a true switch big. But if you go back and you watch all his switch possessions over the last 3 years, you'd be surprised by just how well he does. It's not great. It's not NBA switching, but it's like there were a couple times where, he does a legitimately good job funneling guys to his help. And he really figured out the rotations of being a big guy on the perimeter in a way that I think was really, really impactful. The other guy that I go out on a limb for, not to take too much time, but
go ahead.
I really like Drake Powell. And this is in the argument of this is the Carter Bryant thing, man, where it's like,
I was gonna say super athletic. That's nothing else. That's what he is. That's what he is.
I watched him a lot in EYBL, and I just thought, I was like, this is a guy who is one of the better perimeter defenders. And I mentioned Carter Bryant. The cell is like, he's like an OG type defender. I think Drake is more in the like Aaron Nesmith realm, where he's a little kind of like, he's smaller, he's more to guard point guards, but he's lengthier. But I just thought the motor ran really, really hot for like someone who, for his EYBL team, was like their high volume scorer. And he played with other guys. Like he played with Isaiah Evans, who was like probably would have been a one and done if they didn't take Concanipple at Duke. And he's going to be the guy that gets a ton of shots next year at Duke next to Cam Boozer. But he has a really good first step. The handle's really weak. The shot is kind of weird, but I just like guys who play that hard. Like he reminded me a lot of Derrick Jones defensively, Derrick Jones Jr. Mm-hmm. And I just think like those are the types of guys, like, again, at 13, like where Carter Bryant is going to go, I would not touch Drake Powell with the 10-foot.
No.
At 22, probably too rich for me, but getting more in the range. But if I'm at 31, 32, like Drake Powell is the guy I'm taking, because we've seen time and time again, good wing defenders in that range provide real value. Tamani Kamara is like the outlier example, but Jalen Wells went 37. Really good perimeter defender who got, kind of underrated because he was a little bit older. Drake Powell is not old, but he's not a great shooter. He's not a great shooter right now. He's not a great ball handler. But I also just think the truth is, and I don't ever talk bad on coaches, but like he was hit by a coach that didn't know how to use him in a system that was not built for his skill set. If he had been at like, Alabama, or even like if he had been at Ole Miss, like a good but not like elite SEC team or anything, I think we'd be talking about Drake Powell as like a top 20 pick. But he was just kind of
he was the top 20 RSCI guy. Like this is not an off the radar prospect, but also I'm looking at his stats right now. They're actually very similar offensively to Carter Bryant, like super low usage, like 5 shots a game, 6 shots a game, decent percentages, but like super low volume across the board. By the way, if you didn't know this, people that are like less sickos than you and I are, Bryce, Powell had the highest vertical leap at the combine, both standing and max. And he also measured with a 7-foot wingspan. And that combination is like, he might go back to college. And it was like, oh, never mind. He's not going back to college. He's going to be in the draft. So no, I mean, he might be a guy that goes 24, like that would have gone 40th a few weeks ago. But when you do that at the combine, like you said, defensively, and honestly, the athleticism that he has is crazy. Plus the pedigree. Like if he was a random guy with these same measurements, but that wasn't a 5-star prospect, he might get knocked down a little bit for the offensive lacklusterness at the college level. But when you're also a McDonald's All-American level guy, and then you have these traits, like you just don't fall that far. I don't feel like usually.
Yeah. And I try not to punish kids for making a decision that was probably only 50% in their hands. Like, again, like I do think if he was in a better system, even a marginally better system, he doesn't fall out of conversation in the same way. The only other guy I have, Brad, I know we're going long, but Will Richard from Florida, he's just a winner. He's just a really good basketball player. I like him. Josh Hart, but hopefully he can make shots. I love Will Richard. I don't understand why he's not talked about higher. I mean, I've loved him since he was at Belmont. I think that he is going to impact winning in the NBA. I would do whatever it takes to get him in the second round. So he's my last guy, but he is my draft crush this year, where I have been in on him for years and years. And I've never understood why he's not talked about with a little bit more reverence, but I think he was the second most important player on a championship team, in my opinion.
No, he was really good. I like him a lot too. He's an Atlanta area guy. He's from Fairburn. If people are local that know that. And also, he was the only human. I was at this game in San Antonio. He was the only human that could make a shot for the first 20 minutes of Florida and Houston in the final. He made you remember this? Like, he was the only person that could make a shot on either side. It was actually kind of crazy in the big dome and all those things. But anyway, no, I like him too. All joking aside, second round pick for sure. But like, not in the Hawks range once they kind of buy a pick. But look, I've been saying this the entire time to bring it full circle. The Hawks, you can get in the second round if you want to get in the second round. Like, it's not that hard to do. In fact, Mo Gay, your guy, our guy with the Hawks, was not the Hawks pick. They went and got that pick to draft Mo Gay. And if there's a guy that you love, you can get him in the 30s and 40s. The price is not usually ridiculous, so it's available to you.
Absolutely.
Maxime Raynaud, by the way, people are gonna be very excited about this. I might have to leave with him on YouTube because people are very excited about that.
Put him in the thumbnail. Put him in the thumbnail.
I honestly might have to do that.
How well would a Maxime Raynaud, Mo Gay, Cedric Coward thumbnail do? That's the real question. Extremely
good for Hawks fans. It would be only Hawks fans, but they would be extremely in on that entire trio of basketball players. Well, Bryce, thanks for all the time, and I very much appreciate it. We've talked about your podcast, but please plug anything you'd like, and where people can find you, and maybe even your co-hosts. Great stuff on everybody over there. So what's going on in your life? People should be following you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm at Bryce Hendricks 14 on Twitter, and I think I'm the same thing on the Blue Ski app, even though I'm never on that. Yeah, and then we have a YouTube now, Upside Swings. If you look up Upside Swings, that'll show up. It's on podcast platforms too, but we're starting to do some different things on the YouTube. I just put out. I usually don't plug specific things, but I just put out like a Cooper Flag 10-minute breakdown. I was really trying to get like my J. Kyle man bag. I don't think I'm quite there yet, but that's that was the inspiration. And I just think, YouTube has allowed me to try and do some new things kind of creatively, and I'm enjoying that. And the truth is it's draft season, it's the grind season. So we're just kind of we're putting stuff out all the time. We're doing a lot of work trying to make sure that we have all our P's dotted and Q's crossed and all that stuff. So it's been a fun time, Brad. I always love coming on, and I appreciate that you allowed me to talk for an hour and 20 minutes on guys like Will Richard and Maxime Raynaud.
Yeah, I might get a note from the overlords telling me this is too long, but hey, it's gonna be 2 parts. I can say that right now, 2-parter with Bryce. So if you're listening to this podcast this far in, thank you for listening. Thanks to Bryce for being here. Follow Upside Swings. I am a subscriber and a listener. Check it out. I recommend that at the highest level. Subscribe to this podcast, and we'll see everybody next time.